Hey everyone, Takoyaki is here. Welcome to the channel. I think we can all agree that one of the worst possible sounds that can come from a keyboard is from an unbalanced and rattling spacebar. Fortunately, one of the best mods you can do to fix it also happens to be affordable and not all that time consuming. So today I'll be completely replacing the old stock stabs that came with the keyboard, my glorious PC Gaming GMMK 10 keyless keyboard, with the new ones made by Cherry and sold by Novel Keys. And hopefully after it's all said and done, you won't feel like your ears are bleeding every time you hit the space key. Currently on Novel Keys' website, the stabilizers are priced at $2 US for the shorter 2U length stabs and $2.25 for the 6.25 or 7U stabs. So for this keyboard, it's just over a $10 investment, which is going to be 100% worth the cost, and you'll see exactly what I mean at the end when we get into comparisons. The stabs on this keyboard are the plate-mounted version, which means you don't have to take apart the keyboard in order to replace the stabs. Some of the stabs were actually pretty secure, so technically I didn't have to change them all because some of them weren't wobbling or anything like that, but I figured for the sake of continuity, I would just replace all of them. So you're going to want some paper towel, because if you're not used to doing this like I am, it will get a little messy. You also need some wire cutters to clip off parts of the stabilizer legs, dielectric grease to apply to the metal wire and plastic contact points, and some switch lube. Krytox 205 grade 0, Tribosis 3203 or 3204 is preferred for the spots where plastic to plastic contact will occur. Taking apart the stabs is quite easy. You pop out the metal wire and pull the end out of the plastic housing, and the stabilizer legs will fall right out. Now we'll be clipping the two of the legs off of the stems. If we don't do this, the legs will create unnecessary contact with the PCB, which also means unnecessary noise. We will also need to clip the extra bits of plastic sticking out so the bottom sits as flush as possible. Next, we'll be applying the lube to the stabilizer housing. When lubing switches, you need to be careful not to over lube, but you can be fairly generous when it comes to stabs. Right here, I'm using my old stabs as reference for how things should be put back together. We'll get into the details in a bit. Now onto lubing the stab legs. Having the prong tool here is really helpful so you won't drop it or get your fingers all greasy. Apply lube liberally to all four sides and you're all set. So there's a shorter and longer side to the stem legs. The longer side will be facing in the direction of the wire. I determined that by holding the legs with the longer side pointing up, then taking the housing and facing the wire side up like you see here, then putting the legs in like that. Next, I'm checking the wires to make sure they're straight. You can use any flat surface to do this. I'm not looking to make them perfectly straight in this instance, I'm just making sure there aren't any excessive bends that could affect the typing experience. Next step is lubing the wires before putting it back on the housing. We're using dielectric grease here, which has a much higher thickness or viscosity compared to switch lube. For anywhere there's contact between plastic and metal, this is what you'll want to use. I have heard that people have used dielectric grease to lube switches, but I would highly suggest you don't do that. What I'm doing right now is putting small amounts of grease onto the wire ends, then sliding it into the parts it will eventually be snapping into. Then you'll want to apply dielectric grease on the entire side of the wire, maybe even covering the corner a little bit. I went a little too far with these and got my hands messy, but no big deal. It can be a little tricky putting the wire back into the housing because you have to make it go through the legs and come out on the other side. After you've snapped it back into place, make sure the wire can move up and down freely with the legs attached. Then just repeat on the other side, then do the same for all the remaining wires. And now time to put the stabs back onto the plate. It's a simple process, just in reverse order of when you took it off. It might take a little more work to snap them into place, so try to wedge the housing as far back as possible before pushing down. You should hear something if you did it right, then put the switch back into place. And if you may have been wondering, yes, those are strips of Band-Aid on the PCB where the stabilizers sit. The Band-Aid mod is something you would do depending on what you prefer when it comes to acoustics. If you don't like the sound of the keys hitting your plate or PCB, or you want a quieter typing experience, it would be one of the things you can do to minimize typing noise. But many enthusiasts don't like doing it at all because it compromises the sound of the key press. There is no right or wrong, it's just preference. So if this is something you might want to do when you mod your own keyboard, just make sure you apply some dielectric grease onto the Band-Aid before putting the stabs back on. I've had these HK Gaming Miami PBT Keycaps on the board for so long that I decided to switch them out for a set that I found on AliExpress. These are made of PBT with a pretty good wall thickness for a set at this cost, some imperfections but not a deal breaker by any means. I really liked everything, the bold italic legends on the top left corner, and of course the Japanese sub-legends. And to top it all off, these caps are an XDA profile, which means that all the keycaps are the same height. It definitely takes some getting used to because you have to reach a little more to get the numbers and the backspace, but overall, I was very happy with the purchase. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching all the way through up until this point. I hope you learned something new or at least found my intro somewhat funny. And please, if you like this content and want to see more from my channel, please like, subscribe, and follow me on Instagram for some behind the scenes stuff before full videos come out. See you in the next one.